The Invisible Man does a lot of great things to create a very interesting form of suspense, like with its long, silent and wide shots, slow camera pans and some quite disturbing scenes. But what I find the most interesting is that our protagonist, Cecilia, is actually pretty scary as well. Welcome to Plot Beats, where Toby and I take a closer look at those crucial moments in a film to better understand how themes, characters and structure shape a story. Before we start, let me shortly address the changes I made to the concept behind the channel. Because I use a lot of movie clips in my videos, the previous Plot Beats episode have been flagged and the Top Gun Maverick episode was actually taken down. Now, luckily I won the appeal and the video is back online, but I don't think I will be as lucky next time. So to prevent myself from a lot of hassle, I decided to change the concept of the channel a little bit. Instead of explaining the plot beats, from here on I will now highlight them whenever they fit the narrative. This also gives me a little bit more freedom script-wise. I can now focus on where the movie shines, in my opinion, instead of having to go through the story chronologically. I hope you will enjoy these changes. With that said, let's dive into The Invisible Man. To understand Cecilia, we have to zoom in a little bit on the relationship between her and her abusive ex Adrian, a brilliant optical tech entrepreneur who mentally abused Cecilia and tried to control her in every way. Usually, when you and I are looking for a partner, we seek someone who we're attracted to, someone who we have things in common with and can level with. And I'd like to think the same goes for Adrian and Cecilia. And as we can see right from the start, Cecilia is very intelligent. And not only that, she has guts, and she thinks under pressure. And even though the film is mostly about her being observed, manipulated and controlled, in the opening scene we see her do the exact same thing. She plans an escape, drugs Adrian, and monitors him on the camera to stay in control. And I'm not saying that she's a bad person too, because there's a big difference in how they use their traits. But it does show a believable resemblance between the two. Many films with this sort of premise explore the idea of the protagonist doubting their own sanity, or having the viewer doubt the sanity of the protagonist. Take for example Black Swan or Shutter Island. But in The Invisible Man, during the entire film, Cecilia doesn't doubt her own sanity once. And the viewer also isn't led into that direction. The movie makes it very clear to both that the Invisible Man is real. This shifts the movie from questioning whether he or she is the danger to a battle between Adrian and Cecilia about control. Control of the truth. And the realization that the truth sometimes isn't enough. Because in her attempt to convince the people close to her of the truth, she loses everyone. The conflict scene at around a quarter of the runtime shows the real conflict in a subtle and interesting way. The scene starts with Cecilia waking up at night and encountering the Invisible Man for the first time. It's a very suspenseful scene, and it's the first time that Adrian truly shows himself to Cecilia without actually showing his face. It's easy to think that this scene ignites the conflict for the rest of the film, and in a way you could argue that it does. But I'd like to argue that the real conflict is shown right after the encounter, when her friend James asks her what happened and she explains that Adrian was in the room, invisible. His reaction is what really ignites the conflict. He doesn't believe her. Even though he wraps a bow on it, he indirectly tells her that it's her exhaustion. Adrian will haunt you if you let him. And up until right before the climax, trying to prove others the truth is exactly the battle that she will be fighting. A decision she keeps on making until it stops mattering. After her sister dies, she gets the blame and is locked away. At this point, Cecilia knows that she's pregnant, and she learns that Adrian and her brother had a plan involving the baby all along. It's the major setback of the film, and the moment Cecilia realizes that she's lost everything, and there seems little hope left. And at this point she starts to realize that speaking the truth and winning are two very different things. So instead of giving up, this is the moment where Cecilia stops being a victim and starts playing the same game as her ex. She realizes that because of the baby, even though her life is ruined, she isn't in immediate danger. So she thinks of a plan to lure the Invisible Man and uses the same tactics as he uses against her. She manipulates him by harming herself, threatening both her own life and the baby's. And by doing so, she changes from a woman being controlled by someone dangerous to a woman who possesses the same kind of power. And by playing the same game, she eventually manages to beat both brothers. But the most telling thing is the way she deals with her friend James. In order to get what she wants, she manipulates him too, mentally. And the suit? Now in her possession. The movie makes it very clear that it's not being destroyed. And unlike at the beginning of the film, Cecilia no longer tries to convince anyone that she's right. So, when the credits roll, you should wonder, is Cecilia free because Adrian is dead? Or because she now holds the same power he once had? When I rewatched The Invisible Man, I didn't think Cecilia would become the focus of my attention. I mostly remember how it was filmed and its creativity. How great camera work and sound mixing can get you on the edge of your seat without resorting to cheap tricks. And how the movie manages to surprise its audience when they least expect it. It also gives a refreshing take on the source material by changing the perspective from the Invisible Man to someone controlled by him and wrapping it in a modern story. But after watching the movie again, I kept thinking about Cecilia. How smart she was and refreshing compared to many other horror protagonists. And what the ending might say about her, manipulating James and keeping the suit. So the more I started thinking about the relationship between Adrian and Cecilia, the more I realized that even though the movie is showing us a contrast, it actually makes a lot of sense that the two are more the same than the viewer is being led on. That contrast isn't good versus bad, but how you use the powers you have. And suddenly, every piece started to fall in its place. Her struggle, her transformation, and why the movie ends the way it ends. Whether you agree or disagree with my thoughts, to me, this is what elevates the movie to a high level, and part of the reason why it's one of my favorite horror films of the past decade. And even if you take away my take on Cecilia's arc, the movie still delivers a great experience in many ways. Besides its remarkable camera work and style of suspense, the movie also has great acting, it has a little bit of a mystery, and also a cool, scary bad guy. It doesn't really rely on gore or jump scares, but still manages to be unsettling throughout the entire film. And in the end, the most unsettling thing of all might not be the Invisible Man at all, but the person who walks away with the suit. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you made it all the way to the end, we can't thank you enough. What did you think of The Invisible Man, and what was your favorite thing about it? Let me know in the comments. And if you haven't seen the Top Gun Maverick episode yet, it's now back online, so you might enjoy that one. On behalf of Toby and me, thank you for watching.